Tonight on Hawkeye's Custom Corner, Hawkeye, myself, and Weapon X show you exactly how to prep for Cerakote, gun coat, and even right die. Coming right up. Hey, what's up, folks? What's up, folks? It's about that time again. Time for another episode of the Builders Tribe Tuesday night fireside chat. And I'm definitely happy to be here. Man, why do I look so big on the screen? I don't know, man. I'm excited. And, as usual, coming in to the show, it's always that last minute thing that sets you back and you go, oh man, I forgot this or I forgot that. But I'm happy to be here. We're here. We're starting 10:04. Not bad for us. Guys, I want to thank you for being here. I see the usual suspects are in the chat. We'll say hi to you guys in a minute. We just want to welcome you all. Let's take care of our housekeeping. So if this is your first time with us, thank you for joining us, because it is a Tuesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, and you could be anywhere but here, but you chose to check us out. And I am shaking my desk. You chose to be here. It's going to be that kind of night, guys. You chose to be here with us, or if you're watching on the replay, thank you for watching. We appreciate it. If you have any questions, please feel free. If you're watching on the replay, put it in the chat. We absolutely get to all of our questions and responses or comments. If you just have a comment and you want to comment on something, good or bad, just please be respectful, and we'll address it. So next, questions. If you have questions and you're in the live chat with the usual suspects, you'll see them in a minute, but go ahead and put 4 questions up if you have a question of us who are on the screen. If you're just asking someone that's in the chat, just go ahead and ask your questions. They're happy to address it. They're in the chat all night long. But if you have a question for us and you want us to address something, or you have a statement that you want us to share or something like that, go ahead and put 4 question marks and your question, so we can pull it out and we can answer your question. So with that being said, guys, we don't have any announcements tonight because we have a lot of information. There's a lot of things going on out in the world, and if you want to discuss it as we go on, please feel free. But right now we want to jump right into it, because tonight is Hawkeye's Custom Corner, and we're talking about Paint Prep 101. Now this show is going to be talking about painting with Cerakote, gun coat, rattle can. Weapon X is going to, knock out some information about dying, right dying. Man, we're just going to try and cover it all. There's a lot of information. We'll probably have a part 2 when we talk about things more in depth, but this is going to be a brief overview of how to prep for paint. And we'll probably have a part 2. I'm going to call it right now, because we're not going to go over too much time. But there's a lot of information that goes into this. So without further ado, I want to bring on the co-hosts of the show, Mr. Weapon XYZ. What's going on? And
what
Mr.
up,
Hawkeye.
Hey guys.
What's going on?
You can't go overtime because my ass is fucking tired and I go to sleep. Fuck y'all. Love you. I love you fuckers.
Yeah, he been up and having to be at work at 5 a.m. every day for the last 5-6 days.
Yeah, you're gonna get up at 4 a.m. Yeah, get up at 4 a.m. I mean, eat some food, fucking get dressed and shit, make myself look presentable.
Yeah,
I know that's hard. I know that's hard with a fucking ugly mug like this.
Wait, you got to go to work presentable? You can't sit around in your underwear anymore?
No. Yeah, I can't. My commute to work isn't fucking 4 feet anymore.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're gonna do our best to keep to a good time frame. And if you have to put me on timeout, the timer's up there. I didn't get rid of the timer, so we can always put me on a 2-minute timer, or 5-minute timer, whatever you want to do, man. If I'm talking too long, just like I am right now, you can go ahead and put me on the timer. Matter of fact, I'm gonna go ahead and put me on a 30-second timer right now.
It just looks like it. It's a normal hat, Bill. It just looks like it. It's got to be that angle. It's weird.
Who's that? What happened?
Ancient Order said, Wep, your hat, Bill, is huge. It just looks like it. It's also got the shadow coming from the light above me. Doesn't help either, and it doesn't help. It's a black underneath the gray. And
if his face was still fat, it wouldn't look that big.
It's true. It's true, man.
You know, us
True.
with fat faces, you know, our bills look extra small.
I was, you know, fucking what was it? I was on my way to looking like Dom DeLuise. I was currently at the time looking like Guy Fieri, and now I'm looking like I don't fucking know, a thinner dude. I can't think of a star, but a thinner dude.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started, man.
That's what I used to get all the time. I'd be at the grocery store or something. Somebody could be like, "Man, you look kind of like Guy Fieri." Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get started. Who we got in the usual suspects tonight? Who we got tonight? That's in here with us so far.
Yeah, man. We got Ancient Order in the house. So damn, I really gotta go make a sandwich.
Oh man, do you still have a girlfriend, dude? This second week in a row, he's here early. Who else we got? Oh, Ed, what's going on, Ed?
It's in the
See
house.
you, sir.
We got Blade Boy. All right,
Blade Boy.
Says, hey, what's up, everyone? Can't believe I responded to Reddit post. So, little backstory. I put up a Reddit post. Well, not a Reddit post, but I commented on a Reddit post a while back. Somebody was asking about getting some SC frames or something. I said, you know, at the time, all you could get a hold of was GST9s. You know, I said, kind of wait a while. Well, I think he had read the post, not realizing how old it was, or a comment, not realizing how old it was, not realizing it was me. And commented like, well, you can actually get polymer 80s here, 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 and here. And I was like, bro, this comment's from 95 days ago. He was like, ah, shit, it's you. I feel so embarrassed now.
Was that what you posted earlier to us? I didn't get a chance to read it. You had sent the message over from Reddit. Okay.
No. I think that was something else, but no, it was funny. I got a fucking chuckle out of it, especially when I saw the SFV after his name and knew it was Blade Boy. I was just like, that's funny as shit.
Dude, you are so behind. No.
You know.
Who else we got? Mr.
Vino in the house.
What's going on, sir? How are you? Good to see you.
Darth Dav. Yeah, Blade Boy was like, where you been at? You been under a rock or something? No.
Rather than embarrassed correcting you afterwards. Yeah, I can see what
don't be, brother. Don't be at all, man. Don't be at all.
Just staying on top of things. That's what you're doing.
You know, like I said to him, I was like, it's kind of hard with all the fucking chuckleheads over there on Reddit, dude. It can get overwhelming. You scrolling through posts and seeing one idiotic fucking sentence after another kind of makes you go, You just start to kind of fall into a fucking coma of responding to dumb shit, you know. We got Nolan T in the house.
What's going on, Nolan? Good to see you again, man. Good to see you starting to be a regular. Love it. I'll say something about that in a minute. No Dom with whiskers. Oh, Ancient. Seriously, man. Don't are you joking, man? Are you serious? Is she really gone, dude? She couldn't hang. Oh, damn it, man. That's all right.
Time for another.
Yeah, really. Time for another.
Oh, he said serious.
Oh, all right.
Hey, man.
Welcome to the show.
More building.
Yeah, really.
And more money for building. That's the most important part. More money for building.
No doubt.
You can probably build 2 more now. and still not spend what you spent in the last month and a half.
Oh, dude. I did my taxes over the weekend, dude. When I looked at how much I've spent, I was just happy I could deduct most of it. I was like, oh my God. But I can just imagine if I didn't deduct what I did deduct, how much I would have had to owe. It was just nuts. But anyway, tonight we're going to talk about paint prep 101, like I said before. And Mr. Hawkeye is probably the one that has done the most painting out of all of us. Excuse me, I'm trying to get some stuff from not falling on my desk. He's probably done the most painting, but he's also the most humble and says he doesn't know what he's doing, which I beg to differ. Well, whatever you're doing a pretty damn good job of it.
Well, when I make a mistake, I try not to make the same one twice.
Well, that's always important, learning from our mistakes, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I'm gonna let you go ahead and release you on the crew, because we got a lot to talk about. It is now 10:13. I definitely wanted to get started by 10:15. But again, people, if you have questions, feel free to chime in. If you have a comment on what we're talking about, please feel free to put it in the chat. Mr. Weapon XYZ, he's on the job of being able to get your comments posted so we can all see it. And I think next week I'm not sure what we're going to talk about next week, but we're going to try to broadcast live in the forum as well, because I believe we can do that now. So we're going to try and broadcast live in the forum as well. Real quick, I did want to say, I was talking to my daughter before we started the show, and she asked me how many people that we have watching on a weekly basis. And I said to her, not as many as I would like. I definitely would like to do more promotion, and guys, spread the word, man. We talk about some good stuff here. I'm sure we're not the only 9 people. And actually, it's like less than 9, because I'm sure Hawkeye is watching on his, and Weapon is watching on his phone as well as his computer. So we've got less than 9 people on here tonight, and I'm sure all of you are. I call you the usual suspects because you're always here. You're faithful. You're always here as much as life allows. And I said to her, I says, I don't have as many. We don't have as many people in the audience as we would like, but I'm happy with what I have, because the ones I have are faithful and they're always here. So I wanted to take this minute just to thank you guys for always being here. Of course, life gets in the way. But I just wanted to thank you all from the bottom of my heart that you're still here. We're here. We're a year plus in, and you guys are still here. So I thank you, and I know we'll grow. And it's just going to take time as long as we keep doing what we're doing. So, with that being said, Mr. Hawkeye, one that's been here since day one, always been here helping us and stepping in even before he became a regular on the show. He was always stepping in, especially if I was here by myself or the guys were here. He would always step in to give his expertise. So I just wanted to bring him to the stage and just give him your full attention, guys, and we'll go from there. All right, Mr. Hawkeye, you have the floor, sir.
Okay, nope. Why don't we start off with the slide stuff, and we'll go through some stuff real quick. And then we'll just get to talking about what we're going to do. Pretty much what you said. There's basically 4 types: rattle can, dice, spray guns, and airbrushes. And I'm sure we'll all touch on those as we go along. But the first thing you need to have is a good ventilator mask. It is very important. Even if you're using just acetone wiping your gun down, unless you like burning brain cells, you need one of these.
That's probably the one thing I forget the most, because I'll start working and then go, why is my nose burning?
Yeah. Well, I may not use one when I'm sanding and stuff. I'll use those paper masks, but when I'm painting or dealing with any of the chemicals I mess with, I wear one of those.
Yeah.
And I wanted to touch on this because I've seen videos when I first started out, and they were saying, oh, just degrease it and spray it off. Well, I would degrease it and spray it off, and my paint would start to flake, or would have little bubble places in it. And what it is you may get the oil off, but this stuff leaves a residue. It will leave a residue on your pistols that you need to wipe off before you go on to the next step. And most of the time, all you got to do is hit it with some acetone. I like doing like mineral spirits or kerosene and then an acetone or an alcohol. And that way you get all the oils off. But
see, I normally do, with the Cerakote, what I normally degrease it with, I usually don't even do anything after degreasing, except rinse it off. And that's okay. Everything, whether it's polymer or the or anything metal or stainless steel or anything like that. degreasing it first, of course, sandblasting it, but then degreasing it and then washing it off with acetone. With water, soap and water. But then after that, don't touch it.
Exactly. Soap and water should take that degreaser stuff off. I don't see why it wouldn't. But really, before you paint, you need to wipe down with acetone or alcohol, and you need to use a cotton rag. Those
I like a good 80% alcohol, 80% or higher. I wouldn't use 100. 100 could be pretty dry into your polymer.
Use a 70% alcohol, but that's not my last step. I always use the acetone as the last thing. You're right. Don't touch it.
What do you use to degrease?
I don't even degrease anymore. I go straight with kerosene or mineral spirits because that is a degreaser. That will take the grease off, but it leaves a film. And that's why you need the acetone and the alcohol, because that'll take the film left from kerosene or mineral spirits. I've done that for 30 years, polishing steel, and that's just the best way I've found to remove oil quick and cheaply.
Okay.
It's just what I've been doing. It's what I've been
easily accessible.
Yeah, I like using what I got on hand.
Yep, absolutely, man. That's kind of my thing too. Why go out and spend a bunch of money if you already have something that'll do the task at least reasonably close to it already on hand.
Yeah. Now here's a trick I got. See those things on the bottom left? Those are like cotton between like a thin, soft layer of material pad. I don't know what they are, but my wife uses them to wipe off makeup. They work great.
Yep.
As long as she don't run out, I'm doing pretty good. So,
but I use the similar cotton rounds for when I'm doing my my etching.
Yeah. Now, when you polish like a steel or something, you're getting a high finish on it. Cotton balls that don't have lotion in them work really good. But on a frame, especially a frame that's been sandblasted, it has a tendency to pull those cotton fibers and make them stick. So not only do you have to clean that off, you need to make sure you spray it good with an air gun and get those little lint pieces from sticking to your frame.
Now you do sandblasting, right?
Yeah. Not as much as I used to. But when I first started building, I would sandblast everything. And the reason I did that was if I sandblast the frame and the slide, it gives them the same texture.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? It'll have the same look. So when you paint, and paint sticks real good to a sandblast finish.
And what do you sandblast with?
I go out to work, or where I used to work. They hi Rick, how you doing? I come in there and sandblast. They got a big industrial sandblaster and I believe it's running 80 grit, maybe 100 grit. It puts a real texture to whatever I sandblast. And I got to where I don't do that anymore because if you notice builds I've done at the beginning to builds I'm doing now, I'm really into this shiny stuff now, to the builds that actually, pop and stuff, instead of the more stuff like Headhunter it's just a lot of flat color to it.
Right.
But anyway, it's the look you want to go for. Another thing, if you're gonna repaint something, it's almost as easy to take those 3M buffer pads on these wheels, because you can buy them in different grits and get something around an 80
buffer pads
or 120 grit, and you can take those and you can remove the paint without having to sandblast, and that'll give you a slicker finish. Because if you sandblast and you want that slicker finish, it just takes that much longer for you to polish all that texturing off that you sandblast.
Well, with that being said, good luck, Mr. Weapon X, when you get that package I sent you.
Why? What's up?
Because it has been sandblasted. So yeah, if you're gonna polish it to a smear of shine, you just got that much more work to do.
Yeah, that's fine.
But real quick, I got my slide deck loaded. I wanted to backtrack just a little bit here. On the degreasing, I use either the grease lightning.
Yeah, I've tried that before.
Or I've heard the simple green is good, but I didn't have any simple green. I went in my cabinet.
I've used that. It leaves a film. I don't know.
What's that? The grease lightning or the which
simple
one?
Green stuff.
Well, yeah. Even with both of them, you're supposed to wash it with soap and water afterwards.
Well, see, I've learned something right now because that's where I was getting that film.
Yeah, after you use the degreaser, whether it's the acetone, or you can even use as you see, I got my dollar store acetone right there, nail polish remover. You can even use that if you're strapped for like me on a budget. Even the grease lightning, I just sprayed it down. There's no need to soak it, but you can spray it down, clean it off, and then degas it. In the oven. So that's pretty much my big what I do when I Cerakote. So
right.
these are just the differences between I use Cerakote, he used gun coat. So it's kind of everything is kind of
it's not really different.
Right.
It's still the same.
It's similar. One's just got ceramic in it.
Yeah.
Essentially.
But the whole point of the prep is to get rid of all oils, all debris, and don't touch it. However you do it, with whatever you do, is the way to go.
That's right. So invest in some of these guys.
Yeah.
Nitrile. I use black because it's better in videos rather than the blue, but the color doesn't matter.
Does acetone melt those?
No, not at all.
Well, that's what I need to get. The gloves I got, all I got to do is touch acetone and they'll just melt on my hands.
No, these are chemical resistant 4 mil.
Nitrile versus rubber or vinyl. You want the nitrile. They're not.
I mean, I've gotten some heavy duty chemicals that I used on the last build that you guys are helping me with, and that doesn't even eat through that. And just to give you a hint of the type of chemical, I left it. And this is kind of going to give you guys a hint as to what I might be working on. I left some of it in a bowl. Now it didn't melt the plastic bowl because it was in there, but I left the bowl sitting on my my shop bench. Everything metal that was on my shop bench on one side of it is now looks like it's rusted.
Oh, okay.
So just the fumes from that stuff.
Exactly. I'll tell you what I used to use.
And I had my hand in it with those gloves and it didn't do anything.
What I used to use at work was this bathroom toilet bowl cleaner stuff. It had a mild acid to it. And if you ever work with steel and you grind it or you weld on it, it'll get that black burnt look. Mm-hmm. I could take this bathroom cleaner for toilets, and I could wipe it, and I could get all that off the steel so you wouldn't see where it was welded or where it got burnt from grinding. But the thing about it is you had to wash it off real quick, and then you had to spray it down with WD-40 because it would surface rust. And I'd have to keep this stuff completely out of my work area because it puts surface rust on anything that's set out like you're talking about.
Exactly. It's nuts. But yeah, those gloves work very well with all chemicals that I've used with it. Even the Cerakote, you shouldn't get on your hands because it can eat through your skin. It'll start burning. And just for instance, that the chemical I was using before, I messed up and got some on my leg, and all of a sudden I felt some burning. It's like, oh, that's a good way to end the night. Nice little chemical burn on my leg.
I'm gonna pop up a few messages that popped up during the conversation about sandblasting. So Blade Boy says he was wondering what material you're running, maybe like walnut shell or was it like a plastic pellet for Hawkeye for the sandblasting, I think is what Playboy is referring to.
Now I'll use walnut shells, corn cob. I've even used rice in my bullet tumblers to polish my brass. The corn cob doesn't shine much, but it'll clean dirt and stuff out.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
walnut works really good for making real shine on your brass. But as far as my parts and stuff, I really I do all that by hand.
Yeah. Well, I use the aluminum oxide in my sandblaster.
Okay.
And
yeah, that's good. That's the same kind of stuff you want to look for in sandpaper is aluminum oxide, because they're made more for wet sanding.
Yep. And I was told the 120 grit was the best, and it's worked out. It's the only thing I've ever used. And in case you're wondering what I use my sandblaster, my good old Harbor Freight sandblaster. If you look on the right side, the PSI settings for the different ones, you shouldn't be over 30 PSI for polymer. You can go over 80, but for anything anodized or Cerakote, 80 pounds is good to go.
Yeah, we're pushing close to 100 PSI out of work.
It just depends on how fast you want to rip it off and how much you want to rip off. So
the way I control it is the distance I hold back when I blast.
And the angle as well.
Yeah, as you can see on the right side, I don't have a whole lot of room to work with.
You know, when I built Black Widow, and I had, because the web on that is sandblasted, and I had a completely polished slide. So my worry was, will my stencils blow off when I sandblast and get up under it? So what I did was
Ram's worry too.
I held way back, and I held my sprayer way back, and I kept everything straight on instead of trying to hit anything with an angle. And it worked out. So that was a precaution I took for that.
The word I got from Gledhill, because I had that same question. He said basically tape it up as best you can and do somewhere between 30 and 50 pounds. It'll take longer, but it'll keep the tape from blowing off.
Yeah.
So
you know, these are all things that you need, that I would call thinking ahead, or the step ahead. You think about all these what ifs could happen before you start something. A lot of times you can solve a lot of these problems before you get started.
Yep.
Measure. It just falls into that measure twice, cut once.
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
Exactly.
So what else you got?
That's the stuff I use. And what I do is I keep it in little bottles on my workbench. So if I need to clean something real quick, or I need to do a little wet sanding here or there, I have it right there. I don't have to get this big can out. But I'm telling you, dealing with acetone, you need to watch what you put it in, because it'll melt about anything.
Yeah.
Yep. You also need to watch for hot tools and stuff within the area, because it doesn't take much, dude.
Exactly. And use your mask.
Yeah, it doesn't take much heat.
If you look at
well-ventilated area.
Yeah, I use a fan. I'll always turn my fans on when I start using that stuff. Now, the mineral spirits, if you look there, I got that little spray bottle. I got that from my wife from whatever she had in it. But that is great. If you're working on your frame and you're sanding or you're prepping, and you just need a little bit of, and then you can just go right to it. It really helps control the wet mess that you're making when you wet sand. Just a tip.
Cool.
But that's what I use.
Jeez, you got a lot of paint.
Got a lot of it.
That's why I haven't went to Cerakote yet, because I got a lot of stuff.
You don't need to go to Cerakote.
Here you go, Ram. Life goals right there for you.
It's taken me years to figure out how to use this stuff, so I can imagine a whole new learning curve.
Well, you know, there was a couple of pictures I did forget to take. I'm gonna show you guys live though. With Cerakote, I mean, your stuff comes already pre-mixed, right?
Yeah, see, I am not a painter. I'm telling you, I am not a painter. So when I got into this, I did a little research, and from what I read, gun coat was the easiest for me to use because I can use it in airbrushes, which I already had, and I don't have to thin it to use it in an airbrush. Plus, it has a long shelf life, and I don't have to have a two-part mix for it. It doesn't Cerakote take a two-part mix?
Yep.
Well, see, I don't have to fool with none of that. I just got to shake the bottle, pour it out. Now, I will add this one right here, that low temp additive. That's a savior, man. You can take and put that in your paint, and you can cure at around 180 to 200 degrees, and you won't have to worry about warping a plastic polymer frame. Because I think you can go up to like 325 on a Palmer before it starts getting real soft. So that's what I use, and I use it on steel too. Anytime I mix paint, I'll put this additive on. That way, I'm not having to cure one part longer than the other part. I can cure them in the oven. Now, the way this stuff works, when I put my additive in, if it's a flat black paint or a flat color paint, it's like 1.5 to 1 and 45 minutes at 200 degrees.
I got a couple messages for you here, Hawkeye, from Ancient Order.
Alrighty. Steals a lot of shit from his wife. Well, hell yeah. Well, it's not all hers. It's ours. It's ours. I hear that a lot.
He said, "What the fuck happened to that label?"
It's. I need to get a new one. That bottle's about empty now. But that's from having acetone on gloves that are melting on your fingers, and you touch that label. That's what happened to that.
Really?
Yeah. But
Playboy says, low key, some of his most amazing tools have been confiscated from girlfriends past.
Yeah. Hey, some of my best tweezers. You ought to see my collection of nail polish I use for painting up fishing jigs with.
Oh yeah, dude. I might have a few bottles in with my my RIT dye and my some of my other like acrylic paints and stuff for sure.
Yeah.
Mr. Vino says, yeah, anybody tried the air cured gun coat?
Now, not gun coat. I've never used their rattle cans, but I have used just like what's that, Cryoton or Rust-Oleum paint?
Krylon or Rust-Oleum.
Yeah. The first pistols I ever painted, that's what I used.
And I know Krylon also makes camo inspired paints.
I got
as well.
that whole set. That was what I did when I first started.
Nice.
And it
I'd be
works.
lying if I said I haven't eyeballed it a few times. You know, you get some FDE.
What I did when I used that paint is I put a clear coat over it to just make it a little bit harder to scratch. That really didn't help none. It still scratched just as easy. But hey, I was getting into stuff. If guys want to get into something just to see if they like it, go for it with the rattle cans. And like I said before, when you do get ready to go to a more permanent type paint, that paint comes off real easy with one of those 3M Brillo pad wheels. It'll come off and nothing flat. I don't know. I did 4 pistols in one of those KMCs or KCMs or whatever that adapter thing was. They're all getting redone now, but they've lasted for years and stuff in the backyard. And they look at scratched up and rough.
All right.
Now, see,
it works.
In contrast, and I didn't have pictures of this stuff because I actually forgot to take pictures of this stuff. But in contrast to Hawkeye's, the gun coat, like he was saying, the Cerakote is a 2-part mix. Now, wait. The air dry is a 1-part. So if you use the air dry, it's 1 part. And
it's not going to give you as durable of a coating, though, folks.
It won't be as durable, but it does stand up to most of the tests. I mean, you're not throwing your guns around and dropping them in pits and all of that stuff. It's you're testing them. It's going to be
really
just fine.
Well, you're going to all the trouble to paint one of these and do all this custom stuff. Come on.
Yeah, that's not the one you're torture testing.
Yeah, it's not the one
That's
you're.
right.
That's not the one you throw into the truck bed.
Yeah,
You know.
and mind you, I've had some of my paint rub off, but I use my, I carry Copperhead every day, so it's not like it's a safe queen or anything. But just to show you guys, this is one of the golds.
And we love you for it, brother.
Huh?
It's just responding to Mr. Venus, and we love you for it.
This won't be too much light on this, but this is a tester size. So a tester size is, I think, right around, I want to say 5-6 ounces or something like that.
Probably 4 ounces.
Yeah,
you can paint a lot of shit with that, though.
Yeah, this is a 4-ounce bottle. But then here you have the catalyst, which, man, I wish this would. There we go.
There you go.
There's the catalyst. All right. So that's the part B. Now you have to measure this. And like I said, this is a 4-ounce gold. All right. So with every bottle of this, they send one of these. Now, this is one I bought with a kit. All right. It's the same thing in this as that, but they send one with every bottle you buy. So you'll never run out of catalyst if you buy Cerakote. And I'm sure I'm going to blow most of you guys out about using Cerakote with just this bit of information. They send you enough catalyst in here to use that. But to mix the catalyst, you got to be able to weigh it. Yes, I said weigh it. Because you need one of these.
Absolutely
now,
makes sense.
This is a micro scale. You can't use a regular kitchen scale for this because it doesn't measure small enough.
Yeah.
But this only cost me like $12 on Amazon. But I mix it in these little bottles. And if some of you drink, you know what these bottles are. These are little shot glass bottles that you can get at the
little
liquor
mason
store.
bottles.
Mason bottles. Get them at the liquor store. Matter of fact, this one was blackberry. But I kept them. And I just kept them in my bar back there, and I use them to mix now. So I just put them on the scale, and Cerakote has a handy dandy calculator at their website, and you put what paint you have, how much you're using. Like most of the time, I'll just use 10 grams, and you put the code. The code that you're using of the paint, because each one is different, and it tells you how much catalyst to put in there. And to put the catalyst in, I use these little puppies. All right. These are rubber. This is actually one I use for the catalyst. This is one I've used for red, black, and gold. And I got a blue one in there too from when I was doing Liberator. But these things are, I think I got 100 of them for like $8.
Yeah, they're cheap.
Because they're disposable.
Yeah, I use them a lot too.
They say use them once and throw them away, but if I can use them 2 or 3 times, it just
I've used them forever. I'll take after I'll have a little jar of acetone, and after I use my little dipper thing, I'll stick it in this and I'll squirt it a few times, and I can clean them out. And I've used them over and over and over.
Mr. Vino's got a question.
Yep.
Pop up there for you, Ram.
What's the question about the sprayer?
We'll get to that in a minute.
Okay. All right. We'll get to it in a minute.
Perfect.
Yeah, the sprayer. Once he gets to it, I'll go into the sprayer. There is no specific sprayer, but there is a specific container. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But go ahead, Hawkeye.
All right. There we go.
Bam.
Mr. Vino was ahead of the game.
Right.
The top one I bought because I thought I might use it, but actually I use my airbrushes. Even on rifles, I'll use my airbrushes. And the bottom left with the bottle under it, I got a whole set of those little bottles, and that's what I mix mine in. And that airbrush there is a single stage. which means if you press down on the button, air comes out. And the further you come back, the more paint it sprays. Now, the airbrush next to it is a 2-stage airbrush. It's the same principle as you press down for air and you pull back, paint comes out, but you're able to control how much paint comes out. So it's for more detail work. And almost all those type are gravity fed with the bowl on top because you're just using a fine amount of paint.
That's the same. Well, it's not the exact same one, but that's the same style I have of airbrush as the top feed.
That airbrush that's got the bottle on it, that bottle will hold 5 ounces of paint. That is enough paint to paint a frame, a barrel, and a slide. So out of a 4-inch bottle of the paint that I use, gun coat, I'm able to do at least 4 pistols. That's the way it's just been running. And I also weigh, but what I do is I'll weigh that bottle, then I'll add my paint, and I'll see how much paint's in it, and that's what determines how many drops of that temp additive I add. For a half ounce, I think it's 8 drops. For a quarter ounce, it's like 4 drops. And I kind of estimate around because you can add an extra drop or so and it won't hurt. Just don't add too much. But I find that the easiest for the type of work I'm doing, and it really stretches my paint. Because if you notice the air brushes at the top, those air guns, they have a bigger container, so you're more apt to mix more paint than what you're actually going to use. And then you're throwing out paint. And you don't want to do that when it costs, $20-some, $24, $25 for 4 ounces.
Mr. Vino said this hour ain't going to be long enough. I might have to break the RIT die up into a part 2.
Yeah. You're right about that, Mr. Hawkeye, because the sprayers, I hate this picture they have of the sprayer. I'm trying to bring up a picture of it, but the sprayer, to answer Mr. Vino's question, the sprayer is not what's most important. And let me get my camera back on here. I had to go wash my hands because
that's what's important.
I got some of that stuff. Hold on. Back up, Hawkeye. Back up. We're going to get to that in a minute too. The sprayer is not what's important with Cerakote. It's the container you use to spray. So as you see in his picture with his sprayers up at the top, they have the plastic siphon, which is gravity fed. They specifically say don't use plastic with Cerakote because once you put the catalyst with the Cerakote, it'll also react with that plastic. So the catalyst by itself won't react to plastic. As a matter of fact, it's in a plastic bottle. The Cerakote's in a plastic bottle. But once you mix it and you get that chemical reaction, they say don't put it in a plastic bottle because it'll dry so fast versus using the metal or the glass. So with the sprayer, with the glass fed, even that plastic tube coming through, it'll clog up that plastic tube. So you want to use the one on the right. His airbrush on the right has the metal gravity fed. That's the one you want to use with Cerakote. So the sprayer itself doesn't really matter. As a matter of fact, that they have several of them. And that's why I was looking at this picture on Cerakote. They have a sprayer with a plastic container on it, which they say don't use that. So I don't know why they're still using that picture. But I got the beginner set with Cerakote that came with 4 paints and catalyst, and I got it pretty cheap. But again,
I blame it on that fucking Tim and advertising, that asshole.
Yeah, I wouldn't suggest anybody use.
Kidding, of course.
I wouldn't suggest anybody that's wanting to do a one-off, or if they're just trying to do something for themselves. Cerakote's not the way to go, honestly, because it's very, very expensive. It's expensive to get set up for it. It's expensive to prep for it. It took me over a year to get my Cerakote station set up. So
I think the gun coat is running me It was 22, but I think it's gone up to 25 or $26 for 4 ounce. What are you paying for the Cerakote for 4 ounce?
35 for the Cerakote for 4 ounces.
And what's the shelf life?
It's got a pretty long shelf life as long as you keep it in like, regular temperature, room temperature. You don't want it to be too cold or too hot. I've had it for over 2 years and it's just fine.
Well, that's good. That's what I was going to say. The gun coat, one of the things they said was it had a long shelf life.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got some now that's going on 3 years and I still use them. So.
Yeah, as long as you periodically shake it up, it doesn't settle. I mean, it settles and you can see the separation. But as long as you periodically, if it's sitting in a ambient room temperature, between 70, 75 degrees, not too cold. It can go below that, but as long as it's not sitting in freezing temperature out in the shop, you know what I mean? So in the wintertime, if my shop gets cold, I just bring it in the house. Now it just sits up there on the shelf. That way it's always in the house. But you just shake it up, mix it up. It's good to go. That much longer. So it's just it is a bit of a pain having to mix it, but that's the point I wanted to make with the air cure. You don't have to mix it. Right. Okay. So, but here's the deal with air cure Cerakote. It's expensive as hell to get it. The regular cure, they ship that $10 for like 4 bottles, and then after you go over 4 bottles, it goes up a little bit, but it's $10 to ship, and it ships like in 2 days. They literally, if you order in the morning, it's out and it's in your hand the next day. So it's express shipping. However, with the air cure, because it's got all of the chemicals in it, they can't fly it. It has to come by ground. So it's more expensive because the chemicals are mixed, which means they're volatile.
And they're hazardous material.
It's hazardous material. It's $40 to ship that, and it's coming slower because it's coming almost snail mail because they have to ship it in a truck, not by plane. They can't put it on a plane. Yeah. So you have the thing, if you really want Cerakote but don't want to have to mix it and everything, it's going to cost you more. If you are fine with mixing it, to me personally, I'll spend $12 on one of these, and I put the bottle back up there. $1.50 for the for the bottle, because see, they want to sell you beakers and all of this stuff that you don't necessarily need if you're doing small quantities. If you're doing a big quantity and you need a big beaker to mix a quart of it, that's one thing. But if you're mixing a little bit, you can mix it in just about anything and pour it in there. Like I said, I do usually between 10 and 25 grams per spray, because I'm not doing a whole lot. I'm either doing one slide or a slide and a couple other pieces. So, but anyway, moving on. I hope that gives you some information.
Well, right there's the most important part to the sprayers right there.
I just bought one of them.
Yeah. You need to regulate your pressures, especially with an airbrush. With my airbrushes, if I'm spraying a solid coat on everything, I'll turn my pressure up to, I don't know, maybe 10 pounds or less. So when I start spraying for more detail, I'll cut that down to 4 or 5 pounds. It just gives you more access. Yeah, and this pretty much should wrap up the spray guns and stuff. So weapons, go ahead, take off.
Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. Go ahead. Got one other thing we did not mention. This is my setup on the side where I have my sprayer, because I have my if you see that red right there in the middle, that's my sandblaster. And then I have the green one goes out to my spray gun. And then if you look on that middle picture, there's another nozzle there. That's where I hook up my airbrush, and that adjust that on my compressor, which I don't have a picture of. It has a regulator for air. but I still have a second regulator for the airbrush because I dialed that one a little lower.
Exactly. I'm running, my air compressor's running about
sense.
90 psi, and then I regulate it down for my airbrush, and for the air sprayer in my shop for spraying off my pistols, I'm running around 25, 30 psi on it.
I just noticed if you look on the left side, that black contraption, that's air moisture capture. And in that little window, you see those little pink pellets? They're supposed to be blue. So they turn pink and then clear when they need to be changed.
Yeah.
They're saturated. But I found out that you can throw them suckers in a microwave and dry them out and use them again. So you don't have to buy a bunch of them. I got another set, but I'm gonna try and dry those first and see if it really works.
Yeah.
But one of the things we didn't talk about, guys, and there's my cure oven, and you see a couple of parts in there that have been sandblasted and degassed. Like I said, on the sandblasting, and I'm going through this really quick. The gas out temps. Polymer gas out temps and the cure temps are the same, but you only gas out on polymer for 60 minutes and gas out on the metal for 60 minutes. And that will gas out any grease that's still in. If you open that door up and you see grease marks on anywhere on the metal, you just degrease it again and throw it back in the oven again. You don't have to sand. A lot of people make the mistake of sandblasting again when they don't have to, because the degreaser will pull the grease right out. You don't have it's already porous. You don't need to sandblast it again. So that's where the gloves come in. If you touch it with your hand without gloves after it's been degreased, you might as well go ahead and degrease it again, because the grease from your hands is in it. So until you finish, guys, the slide I just finished painting, I still was scared to touch it after it was already clear coated. I was scared to touch it because I was like, do I have anything more to do before I had, I was kind of scared. But these guys, hooks.
Yeah, I have a lot of those.
You need hooks.
So I will get into that in my prep for RIT dye as well. I either use
hemostats with hooks.
I either use a hemostat with a hook, or I'll use a coat hanger cut up, or I'll use a pair of tongs. If I'm doing a frame,
I went to a cleaners. I went to a cleaners and got some of their. I asked them. I said, "Look, I don't have any wire hangers in my house. None. I mean, I scoured my house for a wire hanger. Couldn't find any. I went to a local cleaners and asked them, can I have a couple of hangers? The lady gave me a handful of hangers. I got hangers to last forever at this point.
I couldn't find hangers, and I was needing to make hooks. So I found some, I think it was 10 gauge house wire, and I stripped off all the plastic and cut them up in pieces, and I can bend them. And they work fine too.
Hell yeah!
And don't forget,
actually, they're easier to bend than coat hangers.
Tape.
Don't forget tape. We didn't talk about tape. These are high temp tapes. These ones, these different thickness temp tapes, they're okay. They don't really stick that well to polymer. That's the problem I had with these. But I bought them. I've tried to use one of them and gave up and just went to dollar store painter's tape. And that works just fine. The only thing with the painter's tape, it will withstand the heat, but it leaves a residue. But if you leave it on there too long, it's hard as hell to get off.
Yeah.
If you heat it in there for full 13-minute gas out, it's too long. I put it in there for the air. Flash cure. I put it in there for 5 minutes now, and then I take it out and take that tape off, because at 15 minutes, it is almost impossible to get off without leaving a bunch of residue.
Well, I used to run a chrome tank. If you know what a chrome tank is, it's electrolytic plating, and I would have to mask off stuff. And what I used all the time was a yellow 3M tape. It's a heat tape. It works real good for sticking on steel and stuff, as long as it's clean. It'll stick to the polymer too. But you may have to heat your polymer up a little bit and heat the tape once you get it in place.
I use my heat gun.
But the thing about that is you can leave that on. You can put it in the cure oven and cure with that tape on, and it actually comes off easier after it's been cured, and it stays on there. But what I use most of the time now is vinyl. I'll save all my little scrap pieces of vinyl.
Yeah, I need to get some more vinyl. That'll be what I use on the frame I'm working on. That's going to go with the slide that I just sent to him. But the damn, I just thought of something and just went right out of my head. But well, while we're thinking about that, Darth Dav has a question. Can an old toaster oven be used for the heat? Yes, it can. As long as your piece will fit in there and it's able to go up to 200 or 300 degrees.
Constant heat.
It has to be constant heat. Yeah.
That's
That's the problem with toaster ovens. But I mean, you can put lining in there like I did with the smoker oven.
Yeah.
To kind of keep constant heat. That's the problem with toaster ovens. They have too many areas where heat can come out.
And they're constantly heating up and cooling down, heating up and cooling down.
Yeah,
I use a toaster oven, but what I use it for is when I make fishing jigs and I powder coat them. Mm-hmm. I'll stick them in that toaster oven and hit the dial a couple of times and cure that powder coat.
I used to use a toaster oven for my my tempering for when I used to do knives, and all I did was get some the heat resistant material, the fire retardant material, and I put that in, and then I put plaster over it, heavy duty plaster. So when my oven heats up, it retains all the heat inside of there and retains a constant temp because it's not just relying on the coils. I've actually captured the heat in there as well. Yeah. It was, I mean, you know, pieced together MacGyver fucking oven, but it worked for what I was using it for, which was small blades under 8 inches. You know,
sounds like a segue for the MacGyver minute.
Yeah, the toaster oven I got is a 2-piece toaster, but I can do about 15 jigs at a time in there. I rigged up a little thing for hanging them, and you know, you do what you got to. You should see how I put clear coat on spinner baits. I took an old rotisserie, and made it to where I could put everything on there, and then I would start it rotating, and then I'd put the clear coat on there. And the reason for that is if you just put clear coat on there, it's going to create a bubble somewhere. So you need to keep it turning. Well, that rotisserie turned just right to keep everything turning till it cured. Yeah.
By any means necessary, right?
Yeah, it works. You know?
Right.
All right, so Mr. Weapon XYZ, man.
He's out here spit roasting a frame.
Weapon, right die. Talk to us, man.
So, man, I'll go into it real quick. A lot of this is overlap with painting. Degrease your frame first off. I just go with a Dawn bath, and then I follow up with some 70 or 80 proof alcohol, 70 or 80% alcohol. And I'll just go over the non-factory stippled areas with that alcohol. I'm not so much worried about the factory stippled areas. The Dawn pretty much takes care of those. Those areas are also more porous than the rest of the frame because those areas have the stipple. The polymer's not as tightly packed in those areas. And you'll notice that if you ever go to do a stipple job on a frame, when you go to hit that area with your Dremel sanding bit or carving bit or whatever you're using, you'll notice that material moves a lot faster than the material that's packed tightly underneath it. So I wouldn't worry too much about alcoholing the stippled factory areas. Those will be just fine. But yeah, Dawn bath, alcohol. That's after drilling, milling, and stippling if you're going to drill, mill, and stipple, right? Because if you do your die first and then you drill, mill, and stipple, that die job goes deep, but it doesn't go that deep. So essentially,
I asked Luder that question, and he was telling me that he could actually, after he died, he could go back and take the old stippling off for a new stipple, and it would take the dye off, so it couldn't have been very deep.
No, it's not very deep at all. You can take like a box cutter and scrape it along the side of it. Not cut, but scrape. And as long as you scrape hard enough, it'll go deep enough to reveal the original factory color underneath.
I got a set of jeweler files, small, and they scrape real good for cleaning up that area before you stipple. They really
and then same thing with Cerakoting or gun coating. After you have washed it and after you have degreased it, wear gloves afterwards to make sure that you don't get any of the oils from your hands on the frame or whatever object you're dyeing. Because if you do get oils on it, the dye bath, those sections of the frame where you've touched is going to reject that dye just enough to maybe possibly cause a thumbprint, a semi thumbprint of a lighter color in a certain area. Eventually the dye is going to penetrate that oil, but it may take longer than the areas where the oil wasn't. So you may end up with some uneven spots.
Is your dye solution hot? Is it warm? Or
yeah, so I'll get into that. How I do my prep, pretty simple. You're going to get a large pot, big enough to fit your frame, with a few inches on either side of it, and that's with your frame laying down horizontally. You'll also want to put enough water in that pot to just cover your frame enough. For the dye solution for dyeing, that's all going to kind of be personal preference. Play around with your dye solutions. I typically find that about a quarter to a third of a bottle, depending on the color that my frame started off as, and depending on what color I'm going for, I found that quarter to a third of a bottle works great. I typically just kind of go squirt, squirt, squirt into the bowl until I can see that there's a nice swirl effect of the dye getting into the water. And then I'll mix it up with a spoon that I don't give a shit about, that I'm not worried about it getting dyed. Typically black spoons will work the best. Otherwise you'll end up with a tie-dyed kitchen spoon sitting around.
Brings back those days of making my own tie-dyed t-shirts.
Does that bring you back to Woodstock?
Yeah, well, not quite that far, but well, let's just say I could have went.
Now, the same thing with the painting and spraying. You want something to hold your frame. You remember when you boil the pot, you want to lower your heat. I typically lower the heat after the pot is boiled. My dye's gotten all mixed in well with my water. I will then reduce the heat down to about probably about a low to medium simmer. You don't want to boil your frame. You're not making fucking lobster. You can warp the frame by doing that. Not probably your best idea. But yeah, you'll want something to hold your parts, a hemostat and a wire. I just use a pair of tongs, kind of a rubberized ended tongs when I'm doing large parts like a frame, because I can easily get in there and rotate it and move it around. Whereas with wiring, I would have to pull it from the bath, flip it over, wire it again, and then drop it back in, more than likely by the pinholes on my frame. If I'm doing a smaller part like a handle scale on a knife, doing a smaller part like a handle scale on a knife, then I would probably just go with 2 wires and just dip it in, because I'm not worried about flipping it. It doesn't need to be flipped. When you are dipping your frame into your bath, you want to make sure that you are not letting it touch the bottom or rest on the bottom for too long. It's one thing to be in a bath of hot water, but it's a whole nother thing to touch metal that's directly coming in contact with your burner, whether that be electric or gas. Let's see. If you're trying to color match another piece, make sure to have that other piece you're trying to match sit nearby you, so that every once in a while you can pull your part out that you're dyeing, whether that be a frame or a knife scale, and say you're trying to match a bottle of Gatorade cap. I want to pull that out every once in a while, and I want to see how close my orange is getting to the color of that cap. Once I've gotten close enough, I'll pull it out and I'll give it a cold rinse, and just to see if that color changes at all. Because sometimes if you pull it from the bath and you cold rinse it, once it starts to dry a little bit, your color will change. It's normal, a wet black shirt versus a dry black shirt, right? Mm-hmm. I'll let it sit for a couple minutes just to get a little bit dry, and then I'll compare it again. If it's still not quite where I want it, I'll toss it in the bath again for another 5 minutes or so, rotating regularly. Once your desired color is achieved, you're immediately going to want to wash your frame underneath cold water. And the reason that you rinse underneath cold water is to stop the dyeing process, because that dye is still sitting on the frame and it's still soaking in. It's still hot.
We're definitely gonna have to. You're definitely gonna have to go into a full show or just this. But you got a couple. You got a couple of questions.
Yep. We're fine. I'll go past this portion. Yes, I've gotten it on like Pergo countertop. Your typical white flake kind of countertop, and it came off no problem. The pan that you're using, whatever pan you're boiling in, some residuals may stick by. So that may be a pan you just want to put off to the side or stick in your workshop as your now designated dyeing pan. I've used the dyeing pan that I used for my frame way back in the day to make pasta, but 6 months ago. But it's been washed 5 or 6 times since then.
I'm wondering what that blue on your tongue was, but anyway, you got one more question here from Mr. Ancient Order. Best frame colors for gray frames.
Whatever you want, man. The thing to keep in mind is whatever your frame color starts off with, that pigment is going to carry over into whatever color you're using to dye it with. So if you're using a white frame and you have a red dye, you're going to get a color that is very close to what that red dye is supposed to look like. If you're using an FDE frame, then your dye job with a red is going to have a little bit of brown tint to it, a little bit of tan tint. If you're using a gray frame and you're using red dye, it's going to impart a little bit of gray blue into your red. And when you dye it, you're going to get a Pepto-Bismol-y tint to it. So like dyeing in a FDE frame pink, you're going to get a nice hot pink. Dyeing a gray frame pink, you're going to get closer to a Pepto-Bismol-y pink because of the gray pigment to it.
I don't know. Look on Amazon somewhere. I bet you can find one. But I got a wheel that's a color wheel, and it has all your colors. And you could tell what you're going to get by mixing different colors together. So if you got a frame that's one color and you're going to dye it another, it'll give you an idea of the color scheme you're going to get.
Exactly. I also, when I'm doing my cold rinse, I give it another Dawn bath afterwards. And I just kind of rub it with my hands to get any residual dyes off the outer edge. And then I go with a soft toothbrush into the nooks and crannies, the little corners in the top inside of the frame, just in case any dye has kind of globbed up in those areas. Otherwise, you're going to end up with an uneven dye in those areas. You'll end up with a forced battle wear. You can also, despite what most people may believe and despite what you may read on 50,000 Reddit posts, you can dye a black frame, okay? But you can't dye it lighter than the color that it already is. So, for example, if you were to go with, I believe it's like a hot rod red, dye more, and you were to dye a black frame, you would end up with something very akin to like the very popular 90s truck color of like black cherry. Yep. Same thing goes if you're using a purple. It's going to impart just a little bit of purple pigment to your black. You're going to end up with a very dark grimace kind of a colored purple.
Well, I'm gonna find out.
You can't dye metal, Ancient Order, unfortunately. And I will add for, in the prepping for this, something that I didn't bring up that I probably should have brought up right at the beginning. And I'm going to pop up a couple of slides real quick because we're just about done here with my section of it. But let me pop these up. I'll add my screen here.
Yeah, I was wondering about that too. If you could match off a frame for a two-tone color, because I've seen pistols that look like they have a camouflage on them that are actually dyed.
Yep, I'm going to get into that, Vino, here in a minute. We'll probably go about 5 or 6 minutes over.
We're already 15 minutes over.
Right. We'll 5 or 6 minutes more past what we're at right now.
Don't worry about it. Go for it, man. Because I think the guys are here. You got them locked in right now. So,
all right. So, pop this up on here. Everybody see my screen? Yep. All right.
Yep. I can see it.
So here's what my Deadpool build started off as. If anybody ever saw it,
that's an awfully light gray.
Yep. On the original forum, I had a gray frame and I had a sniper gray slide. The gray polymer 80 frame is kind of akin to a battleship gray. And I've also heard it called a different color gray, but I've always looked at it as a very close to a battleship gray. I didn't want that. So I went ahead and I started its journey little process. I went ahead and I did a quick dirty stipple and I was like, all right, that's cool. So then I took frog tape and I taped off all of my frame except for the stippled areas. The frog tape works really, really well because it does not allow liquids to get underneath the tape. Now, the one thing I will say about frog tape is if you're not using the medium or the high adhesive one, it will come off in your dye bath. So that's why it's also important for that, every 5 to 10 minutes to pull it out and check it. Another option that you can use is essentially, here's some of my notes. If anybody wants to screenshot that, they totally can. As this, I get a little bit more into depth with color pigment tints versus also touch-ups. So I'll go back to that here in a second. But I went in with the frog tape and then I went back in and I dyed it again. And this was the color that I ended up with. If anybody knows, I wanted to match my slide color. So I wanted to go with the sniper gray for the whole thing. I wanted the stippled area to be darker. What I ended up with this color combination is I ended up with my slide and the stippled area being the exact same color and my frame being more of a blue. And why this happened is the very important thing, and that's to make sure that you are using RIT dye more for synthetics. And it's going to work on most of your plastics, your polymers, your rayons, your synthetic blend fibers. It also works on G10, knife handle scales, micarta, anything that uses a plastic or a fabric type of material. But what happened to this frame, and the reason why it ended up the color that it ended up was because I used standard RIT dye, which comes in a powder. And that powder has various pigments of color mixed into it. Because that when they make that, they have this basin of pigment and this basin of pigment and this basin of pigment, and it all goes into a hopper. And that hopper spits it out into your bottles, and you get the bottle. That pigment's not fully mixed up typically. So what you're going to get is some of that pigment's going to rest in the bottom of your hot bath, and the other pigment's going to mix in. And typically, if you're using a black, the prominent pigment in black is blue, especially when you're looking at RIT dye. So what ended up happening was my frame imparted the blue pigment more than it imparted the black. And the only reason it imparted more black or darker gray tones into the grip on my frame was because I stippled that area. It no longer had the same chemical properties that it had before I stippled it. And that's why the rest of the frame ended up a much darker color through the process. Didn't like that, and that's when I ended up with this. I went out and picked myself up the RIT dye more. I gave it another bath, the whole frame, took off all the tape. And then this time, and this is what I'll get into when we discussed scratching a RIT dye job. There are several ways that you can cover your scratch. I found the best way is to just use straight up liquid RIT dye in a Q-tip and a heat gun or a blow dryer. Obviously, I don't have a heat gun. I've used the blow dryer just because it works. I've got my wife was a cosmetologist, is a cosmetologist, and she owns a professional style blow dryer where it has a trigger button where I can quickly switch it over to cool.
See, back in using our wife's tools. That's
right, exactly.
I was in my wife's office / art room the other day. I just went in there and I said, excuse me a minute. And I moved all of her stuff. And because I had to use her, what do you call it? The resin.
Yep.
And the UV resin. So she has the UV machine in her room. So I went in there and used the resin and the machine.
So if you do get a scratch on your RIT dye job, grab a Q-tip, grab your bottle of liquid RIT dye, and you are just going to take and paint your scratch. Let it dry. I usually, like I said, I use a blow dryer. I let it dry. I'll put on another layer. I'll hit it with the blow dryer. I'll let it dry. I'll hit it on another layer. I'll probably do about 5 or 6. Once that's completely dry, then I'll give it just a quick rinse with a rag, or I'll put it in the sink and give it a quick spray with the sprayer.
Got a question for you from Blade Boy.
Yeah.
Besides black, any recommendations for OD green frames? I think it comes back to, again, needing to have a color wheel of some kind.
FDE
that's a dark color.
Yeah, FDE is going to be your best bet if you want to go for an OD green.
I think he's saying he says he has an OD green frame. He's trying to dye it a different color. What would be a color he could dye an OD green frame?
You're pretty much looking at brown, unless of course you added, went with a blue dye job. You could go.
You might be able to get a midnight bronze in there with that.
Right, you could go for midnight bronze. If you went with brown, like a lighter color brown. You could also use blue and end up with like an aqua kind of color.
Well, green and yellow are a primary color.
Yep.
So when you look at an OD green, a yellow would come up with a blue?
No, blue and yellow. Blue and yellow are primary colors. That's what come up with green. Green is secondary color. So
see, I don't have my wheel.
If you put yellow on a green, it's just going to come out lighter green or a goldish colored green.
Yeah, that's right. That's how you
if that because it's a darker color, and like you said before, it's hard to go to a lighter color from a darker color.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm sure if you went with something that a darker color would mix with, but you do have
one of those wheels goes a long way to helping you figure stuff out, because not only does it have the colors, it also has the shades. So if you want to deal with blacks and grays and whites, it'll kind of give you an idea of where you can end up that way too. Right. I use it all the time planning out colors.
The other thing too, for achieving your two-tone look, one is frog tape is an option, and then any clear coat spray paint. It could be anything. It could be Flex Seal. Flex Seal makes it clear. You can go with essentially any acrylic clear spray paint, Krylon, any clear. Tape off the area that you don't want, tape off the area that you do want RIT dyed, and then clear coat spray the rest. And then once you remove the tape, you give it its bath. It'll repel the dye on any area that you've clear coated. And you don't have to worry about bleed. That's not how it works. I know I've seen a lot of people worry about the color bleeding, underneath where your clear coat is. It doesn't work that way. If you're looking to do a two-tone, there's another way to do it as well, and that's to dye your frame and then grind off your stippled areas, your factory stipple, and then go in and stipple. Then you'll end up with a dyed frame, but your stippled areas will be the factory color that your frame was, which is another option you could do with that OD green frame. You could go with a two-tone. You can dye, the rest of the frame black, or all of the frame black, and then go in and grind off the stippled areas, and then you would have a OD green stipple job grip on it.
Yeah, that would look cool. Take your frame and make it a darker, like a hunter green.
Yeah.
In a flat color, and then bring in whatever, like if you had a black frame, bring in your stippling in black. Or if you had an OD green frame, that would be a light green with a dark green frame. That would look pretty good.
The answer, good sir, is no. For the same reason that it doesn't, after you've dyed like a sweater or a t-shirt or a hoodie or whatever, for the same reason that doesn't bleed onto your skin.
I think I'm gonna. I just ordered a frame, P80 frame, because in case you guys don't know, if you got a 76% frame, whether you built it or not, whether you mangled it or not, whether you chucked it, as long as you can take a picture of it, even if you broke it in half, if you can take a picture of it with a sticky note with a date, your order number of wherever you ordered it from, doesn't matter where you ordered it from, and your email, you can get a voucher to get a $25 frame only from Polymer 80. So I ordered a gray one because I think I'm going to do a Dallas Cowboys build. Don't hate me. Don't hate in the damn comments.
No hate. I used to rock a Cowboy starter jacket.
I didn't even have it in mind to do, but I was like, well, I got to order a frame for $25. What haven't I done, or what haven't I started doing? So I'm going to do I bought a gray frame. It was either gray or FDE. So I have a black one, and I have a FDE that I'm working on now. So I figure I don't have a gray frame, so I'm going to work on a gray frame. So figure that might be best to dye. That might be my dye job. So Weapon, I'll be asking your advice as usual.
Oh, I got you, man. And then this is one of the last things. So I said you can pretty much dye anything with that RIT Dye and War. This was G10 handle scales on a knife. Started off as originally like an ivory kind of white color with the black layers. Mm-hmm. And I went with
is that laminated? Is that a laminate? No?
Nope. It's I believe it's a G10, and that's just a resin, essentially. G10 sometimes gets confused with micarta, and micarta is layered.
That's really cool. That would be neat to make a grip out of, wouldn't it?
I used to make. You can get them in. I had mentioned to you when you were talking about doing the pearl inlay. You can actually get that stuff in bar stock and then cut it to whatever size you need to fit it. And you can get all sorts of cool swirl patterns and stuff. Just look at any of your the Taurus G10 grips. Who makes those? I can't remember the name.
I have no idea who makes them.
But they make them for Taurus. They make them for Chiappa. I just don't remember it's a very popular brand. I can't think of the name of them off the top of my head, though. They also make grips for Smith & Wesson, 1911s. Very popular, made out of G10.
I wonder what that's matched with.
So, this was a RIT Dye More, and that is a royal purple. And that's also a sneak peek at something. Just something.
We've been giving these guys hints for months.
And this was the last thing I will pop up here. I'm going to share my screen.
I hope I live long enough.
Hey, I hear that your package was received, so appreciate.
Yeah, we can change anything you need to
Stop
change.
screen. I'm going to present again here real quick, and I'm going to share one last thing. And this was in response to Ancient Order with the duo tone color stuff. There's actually other things that you can do that are pretty neat when it comes to RIT dyeing. So when I said that I went and did the two-tone again the final time, but I made the stippled area darker, and I did that by using the same process that I would use to fill a scratch. So I dipped my frame, I got it the color that I wanted it to match the slide perfectly, and then I went and I painted my stippled area. Probably 5 or 6 coats, and just kept hitting with the blow dryer, drying it, and then I gave it the dawn bath, and that is how my grip area was darker. But I went a step further, and I thought, how could I kind of make this sparkle? So what I ended up doing was I went in and I intermittently stippled my stipple. So I had my stippled area. It's been dyed now. I intermittently went in and stippled the area that's already been dyed. And what that did was melted back the dyed spot and brought back out your
original color.
Yeah, brought back out the original color. But then when I went and painted over it again, it brought, let's see, let's hide that. Let me get the play button here. So what I did was I went in and I intermittently stippled, re-dyed, went back in, intermittently stippled, re-dyed, went back in, intermittently stippled, and re-dyed until I ended up with a very kind of chameleon, almost a color shift, kind of a pattern to it, to where, you know, you turn it and it looks different gray tones depending on the angle of the way that the light hits it. Yeah. And I just kind of did that by, you know, every 3 spots that I had, you know, a stipple spot, I would go in and hit it again. You know, I'd go 3 or 4 spots over and I'd tap it again. I'd go 3 or 4 spots over and I'd tap it with the solder gun again. And then I would just kind of repeat that pattern, but I would go, you know, 5 spots over instead the next time, or 6 spots over, until I eventually achieved that very kind of chameleon color shift to it, but still remained having a darker stippled area and a lighter for the rest of the frame, but giving it some dimension.
All right, we are at the
11:30
mark.
Gotta take my ass to bed.
Yeah. We have how many people? Hey, guys, raise your hand if you're currently in the chat and you are live. I want to see how many people we got that still hung out with us for an extra half hour. Go ahead and put a thumbs up or raised hand in the chat for me real quick. I might do something here real quick. Let me see how many people we got. I'm showing 4 people watching, but I know Weapon has his open and I have mine open. So there may be only 2 people in there. All right, so we got Mr. Vino. We got Ed Levance and Darth Dav is in there. Okay. So
well, it's a good topic, man. Everybody's got a lot to say.
All right. So I know Mr. Vino is interested in dyeing.
Yes, Blade Boy. Thank you. That is VZ grips. Was the G10 grips for your Tauruses, your Smith & Wessons, your 1911s.
So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a giveaway right now.
Oh, shit.
I'm going to do a giveaway. You guys hung out this long. I want to make sure that is it just 3 of you guys? That's it? All right. Well, we're going to do a giveaway. Go ahead and put hashtag Paint Prep 101 in the chat right now. If you're here, put Paint Prep 101 in the chat right now. I'm not even going to tell you what the prize is. Do 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 do. Nobody want to win the prize? I'm only going to wait another 15 seconds.
There we go.
Got one.
Get them popping up.
I'll give you a hint. It has something to do with what we've been talking about all night.
Feel
one word, Ed Levance. One word, Ed Levance. Hashtag Paint Prep 101. One word, dude, or it won't come up.
I can feel the furious typing that's going on right now in the chat.
So we only got one more. I'm just waiting on you, Ed. How much right die costs anyway?
It's cheap.
Used to be under 50 cents, but 15
how long ago was that?
Last time I did that was back in the 70s, maybe.
All right, so
I'll tell you in a second. I'll pop it up in the chat as well.
Thank you, Ed. Alrighty.
Rit Dymore synthetic is about $5.49 a bottle at your local Michael's, and right now you can actually get 25% off your regular price purchase if you use the code DAILY23US.
All right, put that in the chat, please, sir. Anybody know how much it costs at Walmart?
Usually right around the same.
Right is RIT, right?
RIT, yep. And it's Dymore, DYEMORE, no space.
Here we go. Synthetic fiber dye. I don't know if I'm looking at the right thing or not. 7 ounces, $11.36.
Wow, inflation.
Yeah, your best bet is to go to Michael's or order it online at Michael's.
I typically either will go to Michael's or Hobby Lobby. I've actually found Hobby Lobby has usually a bit of a bigger selection.
Don't go with your wife if you're going to Hobby Lobby.
Yeah. My wife loves Hobby Lobby. I think she just bought a cast iron or metal something or other for her tools. It cost $100. I was like, oh, nice. But in her defense, she wasn't buying that one. What she was buying, I saw and said, that one looks better. Get that one. So
yeah, but you buy gun parts.
Yeah, I told her to get that one. It was better.
Fair,
she was getting this plastic thing that was going to break within a year. I said, get that one. It's going to last you forever. It's raw.
Just look at it as hours. You may end up having a use for that later on.
All right, guys. Here we go. Boom, boom. I am giving a $10 gift certificate to wherever you want to buy Right Dye, Cerakote, or Gun Coat. So if you want to buy Right Dye and you want to go to Michael's, let me know. I'll send you a gift certificate for Michael's or some type of voucher. Or if you want to go to Cerakote, I'll get you a gift certificate from Cerakote. Or if you know where to get Gun Coat and you want to go there, let me know. Hit me in the DM on the forum. All of you guys are in the forum. So let's see. Neomag, alias, beltless holster receiver, yay or nay? I hear they're very good. John from the Gun Collective says they're very good. I have not tried them yet, although I need to because I wear sweats a lot. And when I wear sweats, I can't wear my gun because I've got no rig for sweats. So he says it's very good, but I don't have no personal experience with it just yet. So watch some of his videos. He talks about them. All right. So You guys are here. We're going to do this, and then we're going to be gone. I'm going to draw this, and let's see. Let's draw. Here we go. 1 in 3 chance. 1 in 3 chance, guys. 1 in 3 chance. Let's see. Mr. Vino, the man that just said he wants to do some right die. So find where you want the right die, sir, and I'll get you a gift certificate. So what? Hey, what the hell? What the hell? Why is this going again? Darth Dav, you missed it by 1, man. What the hell? I'm trying to exit out of this thing, and it keeps going back. At Levent, you know what? Let's see. I can't get back to. Guess what, guys? You all win. Screw it. If you want the prize, you all get it. You guys stayed here so long, man. I'm guys. Let me know where you want your gift certificate, and I will make sure you get it. Hit me in the DMs in the forum. We appreciate you guys staying this late, man.
Damn straight, man.
It's just Blade Boy. You here too, dude? Dude, he must have fell asleep. No, he was on there. Okay, all right. So Blade Boy, Ed Levance, and Darth Dav and Mr. Vino. You all guys win a prize tonight. So let me know in the chat or in the DMs. I'll make sure you get your gift certificates. We appreciate you. Like I said at the beginning of the show, I'm glad everybody's here on a weekly basis. I appreciate you. So with that being said, we are going to get out of here. You guys have anything else last before we get going?
Playboy said it's hilarious. He also runs on all of my EDC fixed blades because it's easy just to take them off of one piece of clothing and slap them onto another piece of clothing, clip them to a jacket, put it in a coat pocket. I love my ulti clips, man. Love them.
All right, guys. Well, we're going to get out of here. We love you. Talk to y'all soon.